water, drops of impact, startup initiatives in water sustainability. I would like to invite Alok Sharma, CEO, Scalene Livprotec. Okay, Scalene Livprotec. Alok Sharma, please. Ganesh, Shankar, founder, CEO of Fluxgen. Ravindra, Sewak, Country Director, Safe Water India. Vibha Tripathi, MD, Boon. And Tarun, Adlakha, founder and Chief Executive, Ashwath Ventures. Tarun will be the moderator for this session. He's been a part of the committee that has helped us put this together. Inviting all the speakers on the stage, please. Thank you. We have enough chairs for everybody? One person. Oh, yeah. Vibha.
Ladies,
Yeah, Vibha.
कहाँ पे कैसे? नहीं जैसे भी it's gender neutral.
Nice to see you. Wonderful. Please come.
Guys, any conversations you can take outside, there's a doha, there's an old saying, Rahiman pani rakhiye, bin pani sab soon. When 16th century poet Rahim Khan Khana wrote this, the population of India was 10 times less than what it is today. We had a lot more water resources. We had not lost the Indus River to Pakistan. We were not fighting an existential threat to the Brahmaputra as with China turning it around. We didn't have the industrial enterprises that were guzzling water. There was a huge, the groundwater levels were much better. Today, 500 years later, the population of India is 10 times more at 1.5 billion. The per capita availability of water is so low, it's alarming. There are CIA documents which talk about, strategy documents which talk about that the highest chance of India fighting a war with Pakistan or China would be at some point because of water crisis. When we live in the cities, it's very easy for us to turn a tap, the water starts flowing. We don't realize that how difficult accessing that water is. We are facing a challenge on a quantitative and a qualitative aspect both. There's not enough water and there's definitely not enough quality water. More than half of our disease burden is because of untreated water and waterborne diseases. We're losing more man days, more productivity losses because of water not being there. Punjab, which is responsible for almost a quarter of our food grain production, is expected to run out of groundwater in 16 years. So the threat is right there in our face. But we are TIE, we are the Indus entrepreneurs, and as entrepreneurs, a threat is an opportunity, and it's an opportunity to innovate, an opportunity to disrupt, an opportunity to bring change and impact. And that's what we intend to bring. The idea when we assembled this panel was not to talk so much about the crisis. I mean, we want you to be aware of that crisis because our lives depends on it. It's more than anything else that's going to be, challenges our existence. But when we are here at TIE, we are looking at the opportunities, we are looking at the impact we can make, and not just the opportunity to disrupt, opportunity to innovate, but also as a business opportunity, water, because we assume that it's a fundamental right, the government is going to provide us water, but it's not going to happen. We have a very interesting panel today. We have Vibha, she's the head of MD of Bloom. We have Mr. Ravindra Sewak, he's country director of Safe Water India. We have Ganesh, the founder and CEO of Fluxgen, and also a very active member of Sustainability Mafia at Bangalore. We also have Alok, who's pioneering some very interesting technologies for water. I'd like to start from the perspective of seniority. I'd like to start with Mr. Sewak. He heads Safe Water India. He's an alumni of IIT Ahmedabad, but we'll not hold that against him. He's also a Pepsi veteran, which we'll hold against him. they're doing, I'd actually let Mr. Sewak talk about the amazing work they're doing on grassroots in terms of water availability. He's also worked very closely with the Government of India on water policy, and that's something aspiring entrepreneurs here in the room can be aware of what opportunities and what challenges lie from, because water is always going to be a very government-facing segment. So we'll start with Mr. Sewak and let him talk about his.
Hello, greetings. Thank you, Tarun, for introducing me, and Ty for bringing the panel in and including me. At Safe Water Network, we work in 3 pillars. First being field implementation, where we provide safe drinking water access to 13 lakh people in India. Similarly, at other places like Ghana, we do the same thing and provide technical assistance to several others. We, as Tarun mentioned, have also been lucky enough to be invited to assist the government in writing the Rural Ministry's Har Ghar Jal policy in 2018 and Amrut 2.0 policy in 2020. Both these policies put together are 6 lakh crore. They will be reaching pipe water to 1 billion Indians within the next 4 or 5 years. The rural program started in 2019 and the urban program started in 2021. We being NGO, many would say that we should be calling out the government for not doing their work. However, we are a doer NGO. We like to assist not only the government, but the community and other like-minded people who are bringing safe water to the entire poor population, not only in India, but globally. And in this policy framework, this is world's largest program which is going on, 6 lakh crore, about $90 billion program. And daily, 200,000 water connections are being provided. But again, we are not doing that. We are just providing the assistance in writing it or monitoring it for Mahua. In terms of Safe Water Network itself, what it is doing, we operate 350 water stations, safe water stations, where treated safe water of 20 liters is provided at ₹5 to communities. We also have a lot of about 300 schools in which we provide safe water. We have innovated in bringing the automatic chlorination and online monitoring for all these community-based programs so that the last mile water safety is ensured, and that is monitored through IoT program. So in a nutshell, we worked in the vertical of field implementation, policy space, and technical assistance, which I'm bringing the last. We have provided for 4 years technical assistance to Government of Karnataka to run their 18,000 water treatment facilities or plants that were treating arsenic or fluoride, high fluoride water. So our team used to sit in their offices and manage it, even farm out about 8,000 plants as a subcontract to 100 contractors, etc. So we have a wide range of work, not only in India, but globally, to ensure that poor, about 2 billion poor, who do not get safe water access affordably. And that is where our focus is, so that the last man standing in the world gets safe water. Thank you, Tarun. I will come back to any other question.
Yeah, I will come back to you. Thank you, sir. I'd like now to pass the mic to Dr. Vibha Tripathi. She heads another water startup. It's somewhat what Mr. Sewak is doing for the non-profit sector. She's doing it for the profit sector of grassroots availability of providing grassroots availability of water, and also analytics using IoT. And I'd like her to talk about her venture and tell us a little more about from entrepreneur's side or from a for-profit venture from a private sector side about water and what her experience is and what.
Hello. Thank you, Tarun, for such a nice introduction. So I started working in a drinking water segment in 2013. And so I am actually an engineer and with a focus to solar. And so my main idea or thought process was how can we use tech to, to solve a problem which is a very prevalent, large problem. And we started working with the idea of making us decentralized systems for masses of India for drinking water. And our first designs were also solar. So the thing is that when we are actually sitting here in the cities, we don't really realize the problem of drinking water. It's very far spread. There is not only lack of access to water, lack of access to drinking water is a huge problem. Because our counterparts in village, they do not realize many times that the water quality is going down, or the water has uranium in it, or it has some arsenic in it. It's very difficult for them to figure out. So while we, being aware of the problem, use RO systems or other easily solving these problems, but there are poorer sections of society which Sir has rightly pointed out, do not get any, they don't get any information and they don't know. So that was the idea with which I started working with the solar drinking water systems. But very soon I realized that it's too large a problem, and we are too small a company, to tackle this kind of a large problem, and we ran ourselves into problems rather than solving problems. So after that we shifted and we tried to balance our point of view. So what we did was that we started working with the corporates and five-star hotels with the large properties which had a lot of money to sustain ourselves while continuing to work with the bottom of pyramid itself. So as Tarun has said, it became a kind of a hybrid approach. So we are a for-profit social and environmental impact venture. At any year, we are removing almost 400 kilotons of plastics through our work with the corporates, while working with 5 lakh people per day to give them access to water in less than 5 rupees per 20 liters, as Sir has said. We are doing both works at the same time and using technology as the backbone of it all. Thank you.
I'll pass the mic to Alok now. Alok is the MD of Scalene, CEO of Scalene Livprotec. They describe themselves as a technology innovation company with focused mission on pioneering breakthrough solutions in realms of sustainability, healthcare, and safety. I'd not steal his thunder, but I'd say, they're running a very interesting concept, and I'd be very excited and very curious to see how it evolves in the very challenging landscape of water startups. It's using a completely different approach and a disruption in terms of the conventional mindset of water purification. The scale, the potential for its impact is humongous, and we'd like to really watch that space, but I'll let Alok talk about it and tell us more about it.
Yeah, thanks, Tarun. Before I talk about our technology, I think I'd like to talk about water itself a little bit, okay? Just a few lines. If you were to look at water bodies, okay, what will come into your mind are lakes or rivers or oceans. But you may not realize that we are all water bodies, walking water bodies, okay? So we are 2/3 by volume water. But if you look at number of molecules, because we are made of molecules, 99% of the molecules in our body are water for every human being. So we have 5 water bodies sitting here, and we have a few hundreds here. That is the importance of water. And when we contaminate, right, because I don't know if you know some statistics, US being one of the most advanced countries, nearly every large city tap water has heavy metals, PFAS, forever chemicals. So there are 3 terms you must remember: heavy metals, PFAS, forever chemicals. They are everywhere. Netherlands has the cleanest water in the world, has 8 times more the PFS quantity than that is permissible as per health standards. So while we get water, and our stomachs may not get wrong because we may chlorinate it, we may use RO, or we may use other technologies like infrared internally, or ultraviolet, sorry. By having water, because the current technologies of RO do not remove any of the three. It will not remove the heavy metals, it will not remove PFS, it will not remove forever chemicals. So we are drinking them every day, whatever we do, okay, wherever we are, across the globe. And that is why the incidence of cancer, the incidence of osteoporosis, because the pH is less than 7, because it takes calcium to become alkaline in a body. All the health diseases, a majority of, apart from obviously food and contamination, water is the biggest source of disease in the world today. So it is not only children dying from diarrhea, which is a very large number. Millions of children die for diarrhea across the globe because they don't have access to clean water. So the work being done on the clean water is, I think, very commendable today, because at least we don't have people dying from diarrhea and there's clean drinking water. But it is not a healthy, safe water. It's going to give us long-term health issues. It's going to give us issues which are more systemic in nature. So autoimmune diseases and all that. So we suffer over the long run, like cancer. Now, just imagine that we had, when Earth was created, there was fresh water, there was clean water, and there was elements available. So we did iron ores and all of that, then we built some chemicals, then we got into them processing, we did manufacturing, and we got this water contaminated, and now we send those chemicals back. We send those plastics back, we send those antibiotics back, all of them back into our water bodies, correct? So what does our technology do at a very high level is that has figured out that I cannot solve chemical by chemical. I cannot solve a biological problem by biological. Is there a new way of looking at it? What if there was a new way? So the source of this comes from, there were some ragas that are mentioned. When they spoke, when they sang the raga, the water became clear. It's in our Vedas. So it has to do with frequencies. So there is something called the resonating frequency of every element in this world. So if I know, whatever be the chemical and what source it has come from, if I know what element is inside, and it's done by a technology which is known, atomic spectroscopy, which is known science, then I can give those frequencies and actually resonate them out of the water column. So this is what our company does, is that any kind of water that we have, it could be sewage, it could be groundwater which has heavy metals, arsenic, anything, or it could be leather, and we are able to resonate that in a column. So that's our core technology, okay, that's what we do. And I think what we are doing is what nature gave us. And what happens when we resonate, the chemicals break into the elemental form. So what you get is fresh water and elements. So now remember, nature gave us water and elements, and we give back water and elements, and not contaminated water. That's what we do.
That's like a Mozart for water. I feel there's an old saying, waste not, want not. If you don't waste it, you will not want more of it. And that's why and of course also because he showed up the last, I put Ganesh in the end because his startup, Ganesh is the founder and CEO of Fluxgen, and he's also a co-founder of what they call the Sustainability Mafia. I really love that name. I will probably seek license for that. But so Sustainability Mafia, and what Fluxgen is doing is, apart from solving, like creating more water or treating more water, is also focusing on how we waste less water, and that I think is a very ignored segment. Again, because we in cities, we turn the tap on and the water keeps coming. We don't realize how much water we are wasting. There's no analytics. And we don't realize that how disproportionately high share of resources we urban people are using. So I'll let Ganesh tell us more about his venture and what they are doing and why he believes in what he's doing. So please, Ganesh.
Thank you, Tarun. So I come from the city of Bangalore. My father says there were more than 1,000 lakes in the city before I was born. Today we have a small fraction. Earliest childhood, we had a well at home. I used to see the water, drink that water, but unfortunately when the time I started going to the school, the well dried out. And fortunately we got a tap connection at home and we started consuming that water. By the time I went to my middle school, my father, who used to take affairs of water at home, had to construct an overhead tank at home because water was not coming daily. We had to store the water. And by the time I went to my high school, he had to even construct a sump at home because water was not pumping directly to the overhead tank. So we used to get the water in the sump, and then when I went to do my college and later to do my master's at the Indian Institute of Science, he had to construct one more tank at home. 2 tanks, because water is coming once in 15 days. Today we also get water from tanker. This is how I have seen water risks in front of me. So the question is, and if this is a risk that you and I face in cities like Bangalore, you can imagine the risk that industries would face, because water is prioritized to you and I, right, as a priority for us. So industries are in massive and imminent risk because of water crisis. That means industries which gives employment and which gives is source of our GDP is going to shut down because of water crisis. So we realized that we broke that down, the risk, into 3 pieces. One is a financial risk. The cost of water is increasing for industries. Today groundwater extraction has to be charged and you have to pay for it, and also you have to treat the water, as you mentioned, right? So there's a cost of treating of water, somewhere from treatment of cost can be anywhere from 2x to 10x the cost of water, right? And there is also the indirect cost of water, which is pumping, purification, chilling, boiling, which is also the energy cost. So if you waste water, that also adds up to the cost of water. There's also the second risk, which is a business continuity risk. Industries might actually shut down. For the large conglomerates, dairy business shut down for 18 days because of unavailability of water. That means during that time, their customers had to switch to another brand, and it was a permanent switch, because of which the dairy suffered a lot. The third one is, of course, the compliance risk. Obviously, we have heard that India's GDP is going to get affected by 6% because of water crisis. So the enforcement has become strong. So according to Water Act of India, you have to track water at key location in industries, and you have to, today the CGWA regulation says that you have to increase the groundwater levels by 20% in 2 years, track the groundwater level, track the withdrawal of groundwater, and reduce the withdrawal by 20%. And the last but not the least, which is becoming a very important driver in corporate water sustainability, is BRSR. That is business responsibility and sustainability reporting. What it means is, if I'm going to buy this jacket in the future, I would also know how much water was required to make this. So there is, it's required to disclose for a rupee of revenue that you make, how much water was required to make it. So we see that in future, if I'm buying anything, everything would have a label of how much water was required, likewise even energy. So we realized that if we were to solve this problem for industry, because they are in massive risk because of water crisis, what should we do? Incidentally, the solution to the problem is in water itself. You know, just like how water is a liquid, is transparent and clear, what if we make the data of water transparent and clear and build solution on top of it? That's exactly what Fluxgen does. We digitize water infrastructure. We identify consumption at all points, storage and quality of water, and put it to a secure cloud, identify leakage, wastage, excessive usage, reduce water consumption by up to 30%, and provide alerts, prescriptive alerts, notification to avoid any form of business continuity risk. And also the possibility of a downtime of your water treatment plant, right? And also provide AI-assisted reports for your compliance need, whether it's a groundwater related or a pollution control board, or your ESG requirements as subscribed by BRSR. So yeah, I mean, our goal is to save 1 billion liters of water per day, because you know, the cheapest, or rather the most efficient, as mentioned as well by Tarun, is that if the water that we don't waste, I mean the water that we avoid wasting is a water that is available for people to drink or consume in various forms. So that's our goal, and thanks again for the opportunity. I'll tell short about Mafia as well, the sustainability mafia. Yeah, so thanks for mentioning about the sustainability mafia. So when I was about to become a father, I wrote a blog post saying that I was very terrified about the future where my daughter or son would be born. Of course, I had a son later, but I was concerned, what is the world that we are going to put this little child into? So I wrote a blog post saying that there are already unsustainability guys working clearly like a mafia. Where is the green mafia? And many of my friends actually liked that blog post and thought we should become the sustainability mafia. And we started that group as a loose collective. Today, of course, we have registered as a Sustainability Engine Foundation, still operate as Mafia, Sustainability Mafia. And we have 80 plus India's leading climate entrepreneurs. Many of them are also in Delhi, including Arjun from Smart Jewels, Anirudh and also many of them are also sitting here. So what we believe is we all work together and solve the problem together. Why work in silos? Whether it's access to business or access to talent or access to investment, we'll all bring it together. So that's the goal of Mafia.
That's very interesting. When my younger daughter was 5 years old, she got an assignment in school and which said, what do you want to do? You want to be when you grow up? And she wrote she wanted to join the mafia. So I was a little taken aback, but I guess I'll tell her that there's a mafia that she can join. And
there's a program called Climate Ninja, so yeah, she can join that.
It's very interesting. I'd like to come back to Mr. Sewak. You know, water is seen as a fundamental right, like air, and it's assumed that the state or the government will provide us with unlimited water for a negligible cost or for free, and that's essentially the case, that it's the government that's providing us water. As a NGO in the water space, how do you see that is that sustainable practice, or how do you see that affecting the water consumption, and what is the challenge from that mindset? Where does that, how does that affect, and what can be done to mitigate? And do you agree with this mindset of water being a fundamental right and the state having to provide for it?
Water is a fundamental right. However, I think in the 2012 India policy, for the first time, it was agreed to put a price to water services. So water being fundamental right, water services cannot be entirely free. Even if they are at a fraction of a cost, there should be some charge at it. Otherwise, people misuse it and waste a lot. So that minuscule price point, even for the slum dwellers of 100 rupees a month, or for a village family, a 50 rupee a month, should be charged. And this small amount itself will bring about 5,000 crores a month of revenue nationally, which is enough, which is 60,000 crore annually, to maintain the infrastructure which the government is putting at 600,000 crore. So that is the key to sustainability. But is it good enough as an NGO, if you ask me, to privatize water? I don't think so. Because I think Bolivia, about 20 years ago, World Bank recommended that privatize water, recover entire cost of water, and that's where there were riots. Because when you recover the entire cost of water, then you are not able to sustain. Poor people do not get water. Hence, I think not other than Germany, anybody is able to recoup the capex. In India, also in New York, the capex is put up by the government. The recovery of OPEX today is still not there. In the sense, majority of the cities have NRW, which is non-revenue water, of almost 50%, which is funded by tax dollars. The tax that we pay, subsidies are given. Now the entire country is striving to reduce this non-revenue water. And even NGOs like us work with communities who want clean water and are willing to pay for their services, like Vibhaji and us. People are willing to pay a small charge, but that charge goes towards sustaining that infrastructure, in training those people communities who are maintaining their own infrastructure. So I do believe sustainability is must for the infrastructure that is provided, and the 73rd and 74th amendment to the government, India's constitution, says the infrastructure, rural infrastructure, has to be headed by Gram Panchayat. 74th amendment says the urban infrastructure has to be governed by the ULB, which is urban local body. But how do they maintain without having sufficient revenues? Even if a small amount is paid, the people should be willing to pay. However, even if they're willing to pay, a lot of political parties are giving free water. They use the mechanism of cross-subsidy, in the sense, if you are rich, I'll charge you 3 times. And if somebody is poor, I'll cross-subsidize them. But that does not work many a times, because a lot of people who are not getting the water at reasonable rate are also reluctant to pay, and hardly 5% of a city's resident end up paying for water. And that has to be corrected by IoT, by policy changes, and by things, people like you and us. And this is where the entrepreneurship can come into play, utilize these investments to the fullest for sustainable, safe water to the last man or woman, sorry.
One slightly below the belt personal question. Your life at Pepsi, which is seen as a kind of a water sinner, is that like, are you atoning for your water sins at Pepsi by being a water warrior now, or how do you see?
Not at all. I was the first sustainability director of PepsiCo India, where we started the journey of positive water balance. Today, PepsiCo in India recharges or saves more water than whatever are in the bottles. And this journey started when I was the sustainability director in 2005. And when the communist government in Kerala once said, in their manifesto, we'll shut down the PepsiCo plant, I went to the JPC there and told, before you shut down the plant, I will, if you prove that I am depleting groundwater. And I proved to them with 6 water bodies at the 45-acre facilities that we had, we were charging more water than we were consuming. And we were the 7th largest or 8th largest users, first being a shutdown plant of ITI. I don't know what they were doing with water. They were consuming more than 100 times the water which, with a shutdown plant. So the issue is, again, I am a non-profit. ITI. ITI is the telephone company which was shut down a long time back. And they were using, I don't know, wasting water or what they were doing. But just technically, both Coke and Pepsi, I don't work for them for 15 years, I work for this NGO, use 2 liters of water for 1 liter of water in the bottle in India. This is the measure.
We will continue this argument offline. So, Vibha, from a non-government perspective, a very for-profit perspective, how do you see people paying for water, the business opportunity in supplying water to the last mile? How do you, is that a business case? And is it, being water seen again as a fundamental right? And most of us agree that to some extent it is. How is it seen when you're trying to profit from water? So, and of course, the most important is the business opportunity as a private sector, grassroots, last mile water provider.
So, Tarun, we have worked with all kinds of decentralized systems across India in different kinds of scenarios. Some are in really poorest of the poor villages, and some are in places like airports or railway stations. Some of them have been in urban slums. Some of them have been in the richest corporates, like corporate of Google or let's say BCG, which have really a super stylish office. So what I find is that if I talk about the quality of the machines, etc., maybe we can bring down the costs. See, the thing is, right now you are collecting 20 paisa per liter in the village, and actually that's where the most needy people are. But a small startup like ours is not able to go to that level, by collecting 100 rupees per family. Can I sustain myself, because in most of the Indian villages, there are just maybe, 50 families or 100 families. So collecting, that much money and making a business case is super difficult. But if there is a large plan, for example, Reliance started with a mobile phone, which was, it used to be with the richest of rich, but then it certainly percolated to the poorest of poor. So it needs a very programmatic thinking and a very strong support from the government to support such startups as ours and to get into a large-scale manufacturing to bring down the cost to the level that when it goes to the villages, then that particular equipment actually becomes sustainable. And so we were not in that place. We were not Reliance, and we even though we have the vision, we were not able to raise funds to that level. And so what we did was the next best thing. And also, if I talk about slightly better places like railway stations, where also the poor people come, and previously they used to buy a bottle for 15 rupees or 20 rupees, or otherwise, they were forced to just take the tap water. So there we are providing water at 5 rupees liter. And then they are happy to take it in that much because they're actually saving so much more. And in that place, we are able to make a business sense, and we have done it. And of course, in urban slums also we can make, because in urban slums, people earn slightly higher than rural. And then, of course, corporate it does make.
Alok, I'm really intrigued by your technology, and I've been, ever since we interacted and I got to know about your startup, I've been studying this. And of course, I have had a interest in water for a very long time. Now, water in India is a very critical problem, but also we have different pockets. We have like this very high arsenic areas, then fluoride, which is a notoriously difficult mineral to remove from water. Sometimes it's sewage contamination, a whole host of challenge in the water. How good is your technology across the spectrum in meeting these diverse, or is there something where it's unable to actually on ground create an impact, a measurable impact in the water quality, and how robust it is? And also, for example, a system you've already put, if the water quality changes, which is possible, like sometimes the source or sometimes seasonal change in water quality, how quick or how robust is the system to detect that and modify or kind of retool itself to keep providing safe water?
Okay, so I think great question. What our technology, now see, we started working on this technology sometime in 2013-14 and perfected the technology at around 2019. So many plants were set up, few plants were set up, and I think there was a post, after COVID, I think we lost momentum for 2-3 years, and then we kind of taking it to the next level now over the last few months. So we have tested it across a variety of applications, and we have some marquee customers, and many of our plants are working for over 3 to 5 years. So we have in Cisco, in Godrej, in Google, we just have for drinking water right now. So the plants have been working for a long time. So it's not a lab scale technology. This technology is well proven. Now, the most difficult piece we have done is something called the municipal leachate. And that is not available anywhere, okay? So we have these heaps and dumps of municipal waste that people carry in trucks, right? And you see mountains outside of Delhi and every city, many municipal dumps are there. So because of the degradation of that and rains and whatever, a black fluid gets formed. which is extremely smelly. And NGT does not allow that, cannot go into the ground. So apparently this fluid, okay, is to be done in tanks or large lakes which are kind of covered and waterproofing so that nothing goes in. And there are nearly 40 plus elements in this. And there are organic compounds, and so if you know some numbers like BOD or COD, you know, we are supposed to have less than, you know, maybe 50 or in the market. They are running more than like a lakh or 80,000, okay, in these things. Black smelly liquid. So we have 2 plants in the Bangalore with 2, you know, municipal waste sites. And we are able to get crystal clear water on the other side without smell. And there is no lead inside, there is no arsenic inside. So everything is there inside when you test. So according to us, the technology is not without limitation because it's physics. It just works the same way. Okay. Now point is, can things change? Yes, they can change. So what happens is when you have like a leachate, you do a very broad spectrum that you can figure out what else could be there. So if there are 35, 40 elements, you maybe do 45 elements that are likely to be there and put the frequencies higher. But in most areas like industry, like leather, textiles, the effluent quality is very similar. Now, you are able to tune that, but it's all software. So if we know cadmium is slightly higher or lower, then we can just change the software. So if the parameters are not coming, obviously parameters have to check every week or every month. If there's a slight change in the parameters, you can quickly check if the input quality is gone. So one can do a very large spectrum. We can do the whole periodic table, okay? But then you are wasting a lot of energy. Or you keep it narrow. So those are the decisions that are taken along with the customer. Okay, so technology is versatile. So if you just change the programming on the fly, it will just change, okay? But the actual frequency measurement has to be done in a lab. It cannot be done through the current IoT kind of sensors that are there, okay? So the technology has that. So, and we've done sewage, we've done drinking water, arsenic cleaning for one of the large global multinationals. They found out groundwater had that. We've done it for dairy, we've done it for coffee, we've just done pilots for textile, leather. So we are able to clean everything up. So I don't think there is any problem that we have in that area.
I now just have one question for Ganesh before we open it for public, you know, for all our delegates for questioning. And by the way, I would have loved to tell you that, you know, all this water that you're drinking here today in the bottles is leachate that's been treated by Scalene technology from the Bandwadi landfill, and we'll be watching your health for the next 24 hours, but that's not true. I would have loved that. Ganesh, Don Ganesh, you know, tell us the impact, like, you know, your company, what impact in hardcore numbers, can you quantify the impact you have made in terms of water wastage, and how do you see that, like, on a scale-up basis? How do you see that doing on, say, just even a city like Bangalore? What can it achieve?
So our solution is not spread across the whole country. Right now, in fact, I'm traveling to Dubai tonight to expand outside India as well. So in terms of numbers, we have saved about 3 billion liters of water last year. We have 100 plus customers today, including the Tata Steel, Vedanta Group, Aditya Birla, Adani, and bunch of them. So yeah, we focus on industries which are the large guzzlers of water. That way, the opportunity to conserve water is also very high. Of course, initially I started out business with agriculture water management, but there was no economics that was working out. So we decided the next big thing is like large consumers of water. So yeah, I think since the time is also not much, I would say that our focus is on large guzzlers and large polluters of water, because pollution also affects...
What I meant was like a hardcore number you can provide for the impact and how you extrapolate, you know, what you're doing.
So our goal is to say, right now we have saved 3 billion liters of water in last 1 year. Our goal is to save 1 billion liters of water per day. That's where we want to do it in next 3 years. Scale the impact.
That the city of Bangalore, or it's just like across
the
country?
I mean, we have facilities across the country. Like somewhere in Odisha, somewhere in Gujarat, somewhere in... So we have cumulative consumption and reduction of water consumption right? And how do you augment the wastewater to be, or used water to be part of the ecosystem? So all that water intelligence eventually helps you reduce the freshwater consumption. Our goal is to reduce the freshwater consumption by industries.
By the way, billion has 9 zeros in it, and we are wasting water, even every small city, on billions of liters per day numbers. So be very mindful when you're using water next time, and also see this as an opportunity around you, because there's no bigger threat to existence than water. You know, it's not just like in Delhi we have the Pani Puri, or in Bollywood we have the rain dance, or in Eastern India we have the Hilsa. Water is central to our existence. South, all of them are in Silicon Valley, so they'll still survive. But our other,
we are 2 days of shutdown, state shutdown, because of Kaveri conflict.
Our existence.
So you can imagine South is not in any great shape.
Our existence depends on water, our way of life, and just our life, not just the way of life, but the life itself depends on water. I'd open the floor for a few questions
I'd like to,
until Upasana allows us. She's our matron, she's our,
she's
the monitress here. So we are all...
I'd just like to add a comment on water. See, we all believe energy when we eat food, right? Our body gets energy from food. Most of us believe that, right? I'm getting famished, I'm tired. But most of our energy comes from water. Because if you look at the caloric value of the food, and a sprinter does 100 meters, the amount of energy it generates cannot be from food. So I would strongly, request all of you to look at something called fourth phase of water. There's a YouTube, you'll find a lot of videos. There's a pioneering scientist who's done that. So in the cells, water forms H3O2 molecules and becomes helical structure, and they have been able to show that scientifically now. And every cell becomes a battery. So when the water touches the border, so every cell becomes a battery and forms a negative, positive charge. And when we want to do anything our body wants to fight, that charge is released. So we are living batteries made of water, okay? So that is the importance of water.
I'd love to power my car next time. Questions, please, anybody who has a question? No questions?
If there are none, let me just compliment Tarun Adlakha, our session.
Hi, there is this technology from water from air. So there are companies in India who are doing it. Hi, good evening. Great session. So there's this technology which is basically water from air. So there's an Israeli company behind it, and I think now there are a couple of Indian companies doing the same. So how do you see that progressing in the times to come?
May I take that question? Yeah, so actually the water from air is not a new thing. A lot of the solar drinking water systems which were there in the past as well. So it's all a matter of energy, actually. So when you are going from water to air, you are actually, how much energy are you spending? And then actually then how much that cost boils down to. So a typical water from air system, the 1 liter of water is costing 5 rupees or 6 rupees, which is not really viable for any villager or any other place. Second thing I would like to mention in this aspect is that any city across the world has been formed because there was a source of water nearby. So having water, even though it's becoming challenging in places like Bangalore, but actually having drinking water or having usable water, which is actually a bigger challenge. And certainly air to water has its maybe a very limited needs, maybe when Indian Army is moving to deserts, etc. But you have to always have to be cognizant of the costs which this particular technology has.
Apart from the costs also, yes, there's a statement I really affected my way of thinking in life by our Buckminster Fuller, the father of nanotechnology. He said that there's no waste, it's resources that we have not figured out a use for. And I always see any waste challenge as a challenge of technology, as a technological challenge, how we can use that waste, and all everything that we have on, all compounds are transmutable to some extent, but there's a cost of, as Vibha said, there's a cost of converting that Also, I mean, you can produce water from air, but it's not an unlimited resource. I mean, there's water right in front of us that we are not able to use judiciously. We cannot keep extracting something beyond a point. And it also, on a larger scale, studies need to be there to see, you know, the moisture in the air also has its own functions on how our cells or how our body works. So you cannot, I mean, it sounds very nice and these things are fantastical moonshots, but there is a lot that's already there that can be done. And there are lots of challenges to it, but all of this is possible. The goal and what we want to people to take from here is that there is a disruption needed, and any kind of disruption. There's no one magic bullet. There are lots of things that have to come together to arrive at this goal, this vision. And I think we have, at some level, we have crossed, as humanity, we have crossed the tipping point in terms of resources. But we have to try the best every minute we can, and we have to use every technology. But I think water from air is still a little gimmickry, a little, you know, it'll take some time, and there's limitations.
Yeah.
No, I just want to add one from the social science point.
Yeah, I like to say a little bit about this subject. I know a lot about this subject. So, air has equivalent amount of moisture or vapor inside, which all the overground water bodies have. So it's a very large source of air, water. So it's also our word water circulatory system, right? Rains come through air. The water circulation is through air. So tapping that is a very important activity, according to me. Okay. Now what happens is everybody is using condensation. So the problem is it's not what can be done, but it's condensation. Now condensation requires humidity of 65%. Now look at Delhi. 65% will be for a month. So now the current technologies that are there, hugely guzzling on energy, like you said, and works for 1 month. Now who will buy that machine? Even it's available 5 rupees at that time. For 11 months, you will not get any water, correct? So that is the problem of the limitation of technology. You know, it can work in a Bombay or it can work in a Goa because the humidity levels are high. So I didn't want to talk about this tech because we are launching one, and because I would talk too many techs and it will become, but I'll tell you what we are doing is that we have figured out a way to extract vapor by creating rain in a chamber. So water has a very particular property. If you break it at a nanoparticle level, it freezes at room temperature. Experiment was done by Stanford where they froze water at 100 degrees Celsius by just breaking into a thing. So again, we are using frequencies. We are using hypersonic sound to kind of create nanoparticles of ice crystals. So nano ice crystals, which will use vapor and not moisture, something called vapor deposition, which will increase the size of the nanoparticle. Therefore, it will not remain solid, it will become like water. So we are creating a chamber. I use that water every day at home last 3 years. We are launching this product early next year, okay, because we're redesigning it for consumer. So you will be able to get water across the year in most cities in the country from air without, at a very low cost of around 1 rupee or lower on a liter of water, okay? And it's 24/7, and it does not matter, humidity does not matter for that. And there is no condensation.
Thank you so much, all of you, and thank you for your patience, you know, listening to some like very depressing thoughts.
No, but one really wishes one could have gone on. There is so much over here. I think we can have one full day session on each one of these topics. But that was wonderful. Thank you so much. Folks, just one picture and post the up.